Hello everyone, and welcome to the annual review of the years, which is this year, 1995, for classic EastEnders that are being repeated on Drama Channel at the moment. They've just finished airing the year, haven't they? We've just had Christmas and New Year.
We have, yes, and we've finished it, wrapped up nicely in a nice little butcher present, just to really appease the audience, because you know you can't have a Christmas without a butcher.
No.
It's ever since Pat came back to the soap and gatecrashed Den's Christmas Day by trying to have sex with him. Christmas will never be the same without a butcher, and it isn't now, to be perfectly honest with you.
One of my favourite lines from Pat Butcher, which was from like 1987, was when she was trying to seduce Colin, the homosexual of Walford, and she said, "Some people say it doesn't matter when the lights are off."
I don't want to sound rude, but in Pat's case, maybe.
But yeah, so 1995 is complete, and we've watched the whole year. We've watched every single episode of Arthur Fowler pretty much now.
Oh, don't. It hurts me to even mention his name. Honestly, watching his scenes, knowing what's going to happen to him in 96, and the build up to it at the end of the classic year, just honestly breaks my heart.
I know. It's I mean, this year is very impressive because it's been such a good year, and I was a bit worried because last year was amazing, 94. No, yeah, 94. And I thought, will it be able to cope? And there was a little bit in the middle where I thought, I don't think it is reaching the peak. But actually, as the year played out, it was quite amazing. And one thing that really amazed me was that it made me actually feel emotion, which is quite rare for me.
I know, you have... Your stone heart was
it was with a character who I don't even like, and that made me very upset, which is Debbie, which we'll talk about her later. But that impressed me a lot.
Would you argue that 1995 was the very last year that you could classify as being the classic era? Because at the end of this year, a lot of characters that had been in it, they had been in it from the beginning. Long-time characters, big characters, were either on their way out or had gone. Sharon went, Michelle went, Arthur is on his way out. You know, I mean, they are big characters, and they're starting to introduce new characters that you're probably more familiar with if you started watching the soap in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s. But if you watch it from the beginning like we have now, it feels like that. I feel like that era has ended now,
especially to have that all happen in one year as well. Like if that happened any other year of the show, it would be like, oh my god, this feels awful. But because they had all those supporting characters, like all the Butchers and the Jacksons, the transition isn't quite as like, oh, I don't want to watch this anymore.
No,
as it could have been. So I think they were quite lucky with like Carol and Bianca and Tiffany and Peggy that actually they can cope with Sharon going missing.
They can carry on, but they're not the classic era.
No.
I did say obviously Pat is, but like the family around her doesn't feel quite so much anymore. With David but I mean I love the Jacksons as well. The Jacksons were a great introduction, bar one, which again we may discuss.
I actually
a bit
quite
later.
Feel sorry for Robbie this year.
No, I don't feel sorry for him at all. He's a pain in the backside, and
I feel ill saying it.
He's constantly just looking really sad all the time, and 9 times out of 10 he's brought it on himself. For instance, when he lost his newspaper round, and then his friend took it off of him. It's like he's
only to get the Christmas bonus though.
Yeah, but the reason why Robbie lost the round was because he decided he didn't want to do it and just rub scratch cards all day.
He is a teenager though, but I did feel sorry when they were making fun of him for being a vegetarian, and for Christmas they bought him a fishing rod as a joke. I did feel upset actually for old Rob.
I mean, if it was any other character, I don't think that the bullying mentality would have happened. But because everyone knows Robbie and he's a bit flaky and he probably jumps from one trend to the next, or anything that kind of get him, which is an advantage to Robbie, that's the only reason they were making fun of him is vegetarianism.
That's true. Anyway, we're jumping to December when we're meant to be in January. Pre-COVID, this was 1995 January.
by a good 20 years, 25 years.
We had a really good character leave, which was Natalie, which feels like years ago.
I know.
But Natalie Evans left with the big affair reveal with Ricky and Bianca. But I really thought I'd miss Natalie lots, and I do. But so much happened this year, it feels like a century ago. But her as a character has really impressed me.
And it surprises me the way that Natalie's, when we know she comes back, who she comes back and starts having relationship with. Now we've met that character as well. We've met Barry this year as well.
Yes.
But Barry was very different when he was first introduced. He was like a bit of a wheeler dealer.
I know, like a lad.
Yeah. Went on lads' holidays, slept with a lot of women, gambled. I mean, the Barry that we basically meets his demise on the hill later on. Sorry like for anyone who's not seen that, spoiler.
Yeah, but he's like soppy, he's not very intelligent, he's not popular.
Yeah.
It's a bit how like Nigel was introduced, I guess, because Nigel was like a bit of a wheeler dealer guy, wasn't he, with Grant?
Yeah, and a bit of a joke, while now he's become much more serious. But then I suppose a lot has happened in that time for Nigel to grow and develop, and the same could apply for Barry. But yeah, Natalie was a great character. I liked the secret affair that Natalie kept pushing Ricky to tell Bianca, and Ricky
And
wouldn't.
she set it up that Bianca like walks in on them as well, which was really good.
Ricky really did want his cake and eat it. Let's be honest with you. He
Ongoing theme for Ricky this year.
Yeah, and he really showed off about it as well with Martin at the market stall. He kind of hinted at it. It's like, what would you do if you had two women on the go? And
Martin?
Sorry, no, not Martin. Of course
Come on.
not. Mark.
Yes, Mark, the new Pete Beale.
Yes.
In 1985, Mark did take on the Pete Beale.
He evolved. He was one whistle away from being Pete Beale.
So yeah, Natalie then left. Sadly, she just left. She went off. So did she say with her sister? I think it was, wasn't it?
But she was told to
The
leave.
humiliation of
She was
it all.
pushed off the square by everyone.
But she got soon replaced by Sam Mitchell, who returned later in the year, and Ricky then went on to kind of want her, but not. So I'm guessing that's going to come up next year.
Let's talk about the actress who plays Sam Mitchell just for one moment, because it's quite obvious that throughout the time that
Be respectful, please.
Well, I'm just going to say that she had a drug problem. It was very notable. It was in the press, and whilst they were filming it, it was developing, and you could see just by the way that when she was first introduced, there was a lot of things happening for her. And as her contract slowly ended, as it would come to the end of the year, less things were happening, and she just the actress looked less interested in being in the soap and being Sam. Did you not notice that?
Yeah, I think they were using her as much as they or as
Contractually
little as they could, yeah. But it's a shame. It's such a sad thing that happened to Danielle Westbrook. But she's clean now.
Yes, she has an OnlyFans.
Yeah, she does. She doesn't do nudity though.
No.
She just does it just so fans can just pay her money, basically.
Side project.
I might start one.
You should.
No nudity, but I'll talk about Pat's earrings.
I tell you what, I reckon
Each week.
you'd get some subscriptions on there.
Each week I'm going to review her earrings from 1986 to 2012.
That's
Lots of content.
Where do I pay?
Onlyfans.com.
Take my money now.
Kathy had a busy year this year, our Kath. Because like the past few years, she's kind of just been floating around, hasn't she? Because she's not a Bill, she's not a Mitchell.
But they haven't.
There's no heels.
To be fair to Pauline, she hasn't pushed, and she keeps saying to Kathy, you're still one of the family. But that kind of broke Pauline a little bit this year because of the secret marriage.
Secret marriage?
Well, they got married without people knowing.
Her and Phil, you mean?
Yes, Kathy and Phil. No, not Kathy and Pauline. Gay marriage wasn't legal by then. But Kathy and Phil got married, and the immediate family were invited, but no one else knew, and so then slowly, bit by bit, they started to reveal it. And Ian did his, which was the line of 1995, I don't believe it!
I know, Ian's catchphrase.
I don't believe it!
He should have said that when he got hit around the back of the head in 2020, shouldn't he? Don't believe it! When he finds out it was Sharon. But we also met some of her family this year as well, so lots of new characters, because people were obviously leaving, like Michelle and Arthur and Natalie, and so we got introduced to her brother, who looks like a chipmunk / mole.
Right.
Do you think?
He's
like a Pixar version of one. Like, you know how Shark Tale, like they made Angelina Jolie look like a
horrible.
fish?
What, when they had humanised faces on animals?
That's what I imagine he'd look like on a Pixar film.
I mean, if you drew on like a couple of teeth above his top lip, then I could see it, I reckon. Yeah, I could see the chipmunk in him.
His two kids were introduced, Sarah and Tony, is it?
Yep, Sarah and Tony. Tony, who's a proper little womanizer, but little does he know what's going to happen to him in the future.
Yeah, he's a rebel. He hates everything, hates life, wants to do everything for himself, hates his dad.
Doesn't want a job.
Loves his auntie Kathy, because who doesn't?
Auntie Kath gives him £1 here and there, doesn't she, to buy a bag of sweets down the minute.
I mean, you don't really know much. I'm guessing their storyline is more next year, because they were just kind of... They did that thing back in the old classic days where they introduced people really, like, just slowly and naturally, don't they? Because, like, Sarah, we don't really know. All we know is she's a vegetarian and the dad is a bit controlling of her, basically.
Yeah, but he's easing off a little bit. But the main story going in is that Kathy's brother, Ted, he got accused of pushing a lad off some scaffold, but we then found out it was Ted's friend that did it.
Oh, yeah, the Irish one.
Oh, yeah, of
He
course,
was much
the Irish
like
one.
Eddie Royal's dad, basically the same character.
Yeah, and Ted did it just basically because he's stopped him from going to prison in the past, so he did it for his friend as a kind of like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours now. But Phil was having none of that, and also Ted was a main character and they needed to stay on the square, so they basically told the guy who was looking for him that it wasn't Ted, it was this other guy.
And no grass Phil. grassed.
Was this his first grass or
first of many?
Yeah.
But it's so funny seeing Phil in these episodes because he's such like he's like a gentle guy who just can't be bothered with trouble.
He just can't be bothered with anything.
Yeah, he's like, no, I'd rather not deal with that. I'll just ignore it. Like, it's so funny compared to what he turns into.
Yeah, the only thing Phil showed any degree of emotion toward was when Kathy found out that she's pregnant.
Yes, after lots of drinking.
And we now know why the troubles with Ben have occurred now, because Kathy was drinking pretty much 4 or 5 months in, because she wouldn't believe that she was pregnant, or she wouldn't go to the doctor about it.
She kept having she kept feeling faint or
passing out,
overworked or panicked
tired
or whatever. But she kept drinking champagne a lot and wine a lot and beer a lot and Guinness and gin and all sorts going.
Whatever alcoholic liquids could go onto Kathy's lips, they were there.
Pat was smoking around her, kept forgetting, didn't she?
Yeah.
So yeah, poor Ben.
Although Kathy has made the CAF now a no smoking
true.
area, which is very progressive for Kathy, even though it was for personal reasons.
And she had like the Peggy storyline where she was like an interfering mother-in-law as well, which was quite fun because she bought her that little like China cat present for their home warm when they moved into the house.
And the grand piano, that the slow motion falling down the stairs scene when they were trying to pull it up, because obviously in EastEnders a lot of the houses are on those steep staircases, and so they were trying to pull up the piano to the top, and someone let go of the rope, and you saw this slow motion destruction of a piano.
Classic. And that's when Nigel had to break the because he got locked in the house, didn't he?
Oh yeah, that's
so
right.
he had to break Peggy's gift, sadly. But
Kathy
was fine. Kathy was all right with it. It didn't matter.
Well, Kathy didn't care because she hated the gift. I mean, let's just have another little honourable moment for Barbara Windsor and Peggy Mitchell, because again, her introduction this year was fantastic. But I say this was her full year.
She like settled in as Queen Vic, Peggy, didn't she, this year? And they really worked on her being like a community character this year. Like, it wasn't I'm a Mitchells, was it? Like, she wasn't around her sons a lot or helping them. She like got Tiffany a job at the bar because she was pretty and good with the customers, and she did her quiz nights and her football matches and her charity things. So they did really well with embedding her with every single character on the square, basically.
But which is what the proprietor of the Queen Vic should be, basically the centre, the heart of the community. Her quiz nights, that caused a lot of contention with Ian Beale, didn't it?
Very dramatic storyline.
It really was. Ian Beale's big story really this year. Well, the more interesting story of Cindy having her affair in the background with David was happening. Ian's big story was he needed to cheat at the quiz night so he could win and get this group of lads basically barred from the pub
because they were too good.
Yeah.
And it had lots of twists and turns. There were fax machines involved.
There were mobile phones.
There were mobile phones involved.
It's a very modern story.
Another pub was involved with their quizzes and them cheating. But yeah, Ian won in the end, I suppose succeeded. You could say.
Well, it was a shootout, wasn't it? If they had to answer a question each.
Oh yeah, and Ian was going to cheat, but like something happened that he couldn't. But all the training he'd done up to it led him to be able to answer all the questions.
A wonderful moral to the story. Why cheat when if preparation is the key?
Cindy's opened a second chip shop in London somewhere.
Cindy has opened Cindy's, yeah.
Yep, Cindy opened as well to David.
Yes, she did. She opened up to David.
Yeah. And that was like a weird affair because it's not very straightforward, was it? Because there was lots of she wanted him and then she was bored and then he wanted her but then he was bored.
Yeah.
And then he spent a lot of time being lonely this year. Like, he looked around and everyone was coupling up or had friends or had something, and he was always kind of just
David was
on his
also
own.
Troubled because he was starting to fall for his daughter, which was a weird storyline, but not a bad one. It was interesting, especially when he had that phone call with Samaritans. I expected Kathy to be on the other end of that phone, but she wasn't, sadly.
No. But that was, it was a good story. It was something you don't really see on TV, but it wasn't done in like a weird, creepy way. It was more because he'd met her when she was a fully grown adult. I guess it was like he didn't know how he should act, because the only way he's acted around women is as a sleazeball. So knowing that this is his daughter, it was a bit tricky for him. And him and Alan had quite a few arguments when it all came out.
Well, Alan got jealous, didn't he? Because he felt like he was Bianca's father, and he brought her up essentially, and then Bianca kind of went where the money was, and became,
thanks to Tiffany,
of course, but kind of showed more affection. But then it was someone new, wasn't it, to Bianca? That's probably why as well. It's a new toy.
Because to begin with, like, Tiffany was like, "Oh, just use him for his money," but I think Bianca eventually was like, "Actually, no. What I want is a relationship with my dad." But then at the same time, David didn't know how to do it without just giving her money. So it was really like quite complex. And and weird. And like there was that really good episode where it was it Cindy and David and Michelle and Grant? Like the whole episode was just those two, and there was loads of development with Cindy and David during that.
Oh, they had two separate Cindy and David were on the boat, the barge boat. Yeah, that's it. And Michelle and Grant got drunk together, which basically
with sexual results.
Yes, with sexy results, which made, what was it, Mark Jr.
Yes, that's true.
We never saw Mark Jr. as a little babby, but we knew he was inside Michelle's tummy.
So yeah, there was lots of character moments. Tiffany, how do you feel about her this year?
I really disliked her at the beginning, and I was really surprised because this wasn't the Tiffany. Again, wasn't the character I remembered.
Tiffany.
But near the end, I started to grow on her. I to be honest with you, I wasn't. I know that she was really riling up Ricky on purpose, and I get that at the end of the year, Ricky had a really horrible, hard time because, well, we'll get to that. But I didn't mind that she was winding Ricky up because it kind of then showed Ricky's emotional side. So I appreciated it. So as much as you're probably meant to think, oh, why is she winding Ricky up like that? That's unfair. I kind of thought that actually was fine for me. So yeah, she's growing on me, and I know that I'm going to end up falling in love with her because we know that the public did.
I think 96 is like the Bianca and Tiffany year. A bit like how Michelle and Sharon, when they moved into their flat together and they became like, they went from like kid actors to young adult.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're going to get next year with those two. But yeah, I'm not blown away with Tiffany at the moment. She's just kind of a bit annoying. I don't know whether it's because I'm watching it as an adult now. So I agree with like, I'm on the side of like Arthur and Pauline and Ethel. Whereas maybe if I watched it when I was younger, I would have been on the side of Ricky, Bianca or Sam.
You're old before your time.
I mean, I'm more of an Ethel than a Bianca.
It was lovely seeing Ethel this year, but again, you can see that they're slowly the same with Dr. Legg, and we said it before, but where they're not, again, it's kind of they've been knocked down to another few episodes, but whenever Ethel's on screen, I love seeing her on screen.
Yeah, she's great. I can't remember one thing she did this year.
Well, she set up the Robbie storyline when he went carol singing because she said
guy died.
Some scout leader died. And she was a really long scene when she was like constantly telling everyone who walked into there, oh, have you heard blah, blah, blah's died? I think Robbie heard, and then Robbie used that as a way of getting money for his carol singing by saying to people, oh, he's my old scout leader and we're raising money for his widow. And that happened.
Yeah. But it's just nice to see Ethel.
It's lovely.
She pops up every now and then, didn't she? And that was that. How about Sharon's exit? This is like her first, the end of like classic Sharon, I guess, because when she comes back, she's quite a different character. But I wasn't like massively like enthralled by it, which it seems really weird saying because I love Sharon, I love her relationship with Grant, but it was a bit like, I don't know, it was a bit
good. It was
meh.
Well, no, I don't know. It was good. It was better than meh. I think it was kind of the build up to it was fun.
Yeah, but it kind of felt like Letitia Dean was like, she was there for 2 weeks, so they were like, okay, let's film all your scenes in this house quick or in this restaurant with Grant, and then you can just leave. Like, do you know what I mean? It felt a bit like there was Sharon and then there was everyone else.
But I like that they developed Sharon, and it was. No matter what Sharon, like you said, when Sharon returned, a different Sharon, especially to the Sharon we see today, had come along, a much more hard-nosed, a bit more...
bitch.
Yeah, bitch.
Cow.
But at that point in 95, Sharon was still quite soft, and although she thought she could take on the Mitchells, she knew in her heart of hearts she really couldn't. But she nearly did. She nearly beat the Mitchells. But
she wanted to like humiliate Grant, like he humiliated her, basically.
But she just couldn't carry it out. She couldn't finish it off. And so when it came to the very end of the story, when she was about to leave, she had the black cab waiting outside and she had the microphone in her hand and she was about to do it. She just couldn't. She dropped the microphone and she said to Grant, this was my plan, this is what I was going to do to you, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and they had like a soft goodbye, didn't they, outside, and she went off in her power suit and off to America.
Yeah, off she goes to America.
But yeah, I wasn't like, I guess that just shows like the rest of the year was so good because Sharon's big exit storyline isn't like a standout moment in my mind.
No, it wasn't the top of the bill, but it's still good, and it's Sharon. I mean, anything that entails Sharon is going to be a fun talking point in now and in the future.
I mean, let's talk quickly about what one of the only deaths this year is our Debbie.
Wow, there's only one death this year?
I think so. One that I can remember.
God, John Sen, look back. Look at footnotes.
Yeah, he has one a month. But like Debbie as a character, I think we both agree that she's not like the top of our list. Like,
oh no, I
she's
didn't
not,
like
amazing.
Debbie very much at all. I found her really dreary and a bit drippy, but fine for Nigel.
Yeah, but I'm so impressed that a character that I wasn't fussed about, who died off screen, like out of nowhere, she just got hit by a car, but the aftermath of her death was so well done. And like all the performances, and they brought back her mum, and they had the actress of her daughter Claire and Nigel. It was just so sad, and it felt so real as well. And it was like, wow, I'm watching this and I'm getting really upset seeing this play out about a character that I wasn't that fond of. And how weird is that, and how rare is that the writing of an aftermath of someone dying like that is so powerful. And it went out throughout the rest of the year, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there was the intense stuff right in the first couple of weeks, and it has to be said that it was played out wonderfully by the actor Nigel, by Claire, their daughter,
and the friendship with Grant as well.
Yeah,
was really sweet.
Grant was really good as well in the story, and it was just like I say, it was played out realistically, and it grew as well, because you saw the grieving actually happening. You saw the beginning of the grieving where it was kind of shock. It was a shock, yeah, and then the acceptance of it, and then the what do I do now of it, and it was just perfect.
And the loneliness of it as well.
Yeah.
As well. It was just, it was just so well
written
done.
so well. And the fact that they also tied in then the custody of who was then going to look after Claire between her dad and Nigel. And so Nigel also had that burden on his shoulders. It was so good. It was just how one little story where this is how a character should die. The aftermath gave 7, 8 months worth of storylines,
months, and
for Nigel, but it didn't feel boring. It didn't feel self-contained either, and it didn't feel like it was patronising in any way. It just felt like a true,
and it upset everyone like on the square. Like Peggy was like, "Oh, I'm going to go and just speak to him, make sure he's okay," and like the news got around to the Beale house, and like it really affected everyone on the square, because Nigel is such like he's like a friendly guy to everyone, isn't he?
Yeah,
so everyone was like, they want to help him.
Even Debbie's best friend.
What, Tracy?
She
didn't get too tossed, could she?
No, Tracy did. Tracy kind of went Nigel, and they had that lovely scene on the market.
Oh yeah, because he bought flowers, didn't he? Yeah.
And she went, no, take the money. Can you imagine if Tracy said £2.50?
Yeah, and it was just very heartbreaking, like her leaving her young daughter Claire, and they were so lucky with the actress they got for her as well, because the material they gave her was quite layered for like a character who's 12? Is she 12?
I guess so.
Around that age, and she was able to do it. And it was interesting as well, having that relationship between her and Nigel kind of putting his weight and his reliance onto her, a young girl, and she was kind of like making breakfast, or she was cleaning the house, and at the same time she was struggling knowing that her mum wasn't there. So there was loads going on. Debbie's mum as well.
Debbie's mum is amazing.
She is.
I don't know why they didn't make her a full character. I mean, they could have shoehorned her into the Nigel household.
Yeah. And it impresses me, like, if that was nowadays, like, they'd bring, like, when Ronnie and Roxy died, like, they brought back the mum, like, for one episode, the funeral, and then never seen, like, do you know what I mean? But she, like, kept popping in, making sure she's okay.
Ronnie and Roxy were lucky to have a funeral. A lot of characters nowadays, they're on screen.
True. But I just think that it's based in reality. Like, she pops in every few weeks, sees her granddaughter, sees Claire, sees Nigel. She was there for the court case. Like, it wasn't like, oh, you can come back for 3 episodes and then we won't see you again. So, yes, very sad. R.I.P. Debs.
Yes, a character we didn't think we'd miss, but we do. It really didn't. When we was building up to it, we both said, I don't think.
Well, that's why it's so impressive, because I don't miss Debbie, but the material that her death brought was so powerful and real. I think I'll remember it for quite a while. Like, but that's nothing. Like, it's not like, oh, I miss Debbie the character, she was amazing. But like, what her death brought was more than what the character brought, I guess. But you know, she had her sexual.
I was about to say her last story. I did feel sorry for the actress a little bit. Her final story before her death was her sexual abuse story
in the house. But she got over. She did him in, basically, didn't she? So she ended
on a high.
Yeah, on a high.
She went off to buy a computer, didn't she, for Claire? That was the whole story.
Oh, yes, yeah. Didn't look when she crossed the road, though.
No, always look left, look right, look left again. That's the story.
Well, we're depressed. We might as well carry on and talk about Arthur.
Oh, no, don't. See, this story is the one that really affected me this year.
Yes, it was very upsetting.
Because I've really attached myself to Arthur. I always say to you, I feel like I'm a little bit Arthur. Whenever I see a story with Arthur,
I'm Ethel.
You are. You're Pauline. No, whenever I see a story with Arthur, my heart just, I don't know, it's just something about the character. You just love
and the
him.
actor.
Yeah.
There's something that he brings that's just like, and I guess
so personal, isn't it?
And he's like the type of guy that I guess like anyone would know, like that type of person. And like, because we've been there for like 10 years, we've seen all that he's gone through. I guess seeing this is just heartbreaking because he's not the most confident man.
And he has a series. He has had mental illness in the past, and it was linked to what he's now been accused of doing again. And I loved that they did that. They used an old story to basically make his demise. So it's almost like Arthur has probably gone full circle on the soap. Do you know what I mean? It's like he's had the beginning, he's had the middle, and now this is his end. And it just felt like a complete circle.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so sad because like he's just a road sweep. He's not exactly enthralled with his job. He's married with Pauline with his older kids, and then this thing comes along where Pauline's like, oh yeah, you should go for it, where he can be the head of this committee,
the allotment association,
for gardening and his passion. And he put on a suit and he wasn't confident, but he got the votes and he went through, and he was like, oh, okay, maybe I am someone, or maybe I do have this in me. And then for it to end like this, it's like, oh god, that's just really. But
it was devastating, the realization of it, because he had raised £10,000 with Willie Roper, evil Willie Roper. I don't like Willie Roper. And he was walking, he was like a cock of the walk.
£20,000
was it 20?
Yeah,
he was
20.
cock of the walk, strutting around the square all day, telling everyone, we're going to put the £20,000 in the council today, and they're going to match it, and we're going to do cleaning up Walford campaign, and we're going to make everything. And then as soon as they get to the bank and the money's been taken, and it was like it hit Arthur straight away that, hang on, this feels
I know
familiar.
something's wrong here, but I don't want it to be, or it shouldn't be, like it's not physically possible, but he kind of knows. And like the way they planted it, because we know, because we're watching old episodes, we know what was happening. The way they planted it through like quite a few months, like him, Willie making them get holiday insurance and forcing Arthur to sign some paperwork. And be like, oh, just sign it. And it's like, okay, pick up on that. And there was a hint about all these posts being sent to Dickie's flat that Sanjay was looking after. Like Carol and Alan were staying there, weren't they?
Yeah, because they had
explosion.
Their house, gas explosion.
And they said, oh, I just heard someone come in. Does someone have a key? All the mail's gone. And like that was just such a little thing that happened months ago.
Yeah.
It was part of this storyline when the police were saying, oh, well,
because Willie was basically posting credit cards and to that flat.
Yeah, and they said, oh, Arthur, you know that flat was empty. It must have been you.
It's such a clever little subtle hint, wasn't it? And it was even just we didn't even think about it, did we? We thought, that's a weird thing they're bringing
I wonder
up.
Who that was.
Because at first we thought it might be someone who has a vendetta against Alan, might have been David maybe,
or
David.
Just, wanting a place to take Cindy.
Or
like Robbie or anyone. But
no, it was Willie basically having post directed there. And and they didn't even. The thing is, they didn't patronise the audience either. They didn't basically
flashback.
No, they didn't do a flashback, but they didn't paint it. They didn't lay it out to the audience either.
Like if you pick it up, you pick it up.
Yep. If you pick that up, then you've worked it out. And it's like, Jesus, that's clever. Good writing.
Really good. Very good. And like the police and the way they've done it all was so well done. Like they said, oh, we just want a friendly word, Arthur, because we've spoken to Willie. We just need to speak to you now. But the way they spoke to Willie and the way they spoke to Arthur were very official. And they were like, you can have a lawyer, like if you want present, but it's just a chat. And he was like, oh no, I just want to get it sorted out. And we've seen him in his police interview before when he did the Christmas Club money. And but this time he was innocent. He kept answering his honest questions, and it didn't go down well.
Well, he just, again, he twigged to him that he knew where this road was heading. And but again, he wouldn't. They asked him, how do you have the money he's only a road sweeper. How do you have the money for holiday? How do you have the money to send Pauline to America? And he wouldn't get his son in trouble. Again, Arthur, a family man, looks after his family till the end.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because Mark's gambling
paid
into this storyline as well.
Mark's gambling habit.
Yes.
When Ruth beat up the gangsters.
Yeah, like put a leg on a throat. But I mean, there's loads more that happened this year. We're running out of time, but like we had the wedding with Ruth and Mark, where Jeff and Michelle went along, and because Jeff wanted to propose to Michelle and she wasn't sure, and that's when they broke up in Scotland, and because they were going to move together. Yeah,
and then did the Jeff and Michelle relationship really was a good relationship at the end when Michelle basically made the decision that there was nothing for her in Walford anymore, And so she applied for a job to work in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah, with a sassy female who saw herself in Michelle.
She really did.
Sitting there smoking, wasn't she?
In front of a pregnant woman. Little did she know. And and Jeff helped. Poor Jeff. Jeff kept coming over, didn't he, and said, "Have you made a decision? Do you want to marry me again?" It's like, no, Jeff, I don't.
I know,
Stop asking me.
Bless him. He's so sweet.
Michelle's exit.
Michelle's exit, yeah.
What did you think of Michelle's exit? You said Sharon's was a bit of a wet.
No, I thought Michelle's was really well done. They put a lot of because I think Sue Tully was like, if there's like a main character, inverted commas or brackets, whatever they are, I think Michelle would have been it for the first 10 years, don't you? Like, she had so many huge storylines.
Oh yeah.
And she went for a bit of a lull this year because I think they knew she was exiting. But
the Tully.
But the exit they gave her was so well done, and like they spent so much time. They had her go visit Lou's grave, and she had a chat with Ethel.
Oh, yes, yes.
She had like her end scenes with Pauline, and her relationship with Arthur was really well done, and the things she did with Mark and how he supported her, and she wasn't very sure what she was doing was correct, but Mark was like, no, do it. I've had my rebellious stage where I went off for 5 years. I think it's time that you do it. And it was just a well done exit, wasn't it? There was nothing about it which didn't feel in character for Michelle.
Didn't feel out of character for Michelle.
Yeah, even like her and Grant sleeping together. When I heard like that happens, I'm like, how are they going to write that believably? But
it did. It worked.
They did, yeah.
And it made sense as well. And it also kind of enforced her exit and her decision to leave. It was all just all worked nicely together. And her final line when she went off in the black cab was like,
us three
are going to be fine.
And Vicky's like, what?
I know. I did like the actress's reaction was like, what? What are you talking about,
Vicky,
Mum?
I know. She had a roller coaster year, Vicky. She was moving to Scotland.
Yeah.
Jeff was her new dad. They broke up. Then Michelle slept with her boss in the council.
Oh, God,
And then now she's pregnant and moving to America. But she gets to go to Disneyland with Sharon. So
that's true. Vicky coped because Birmingham is very close to Florida, and that's where Sharon lives now, isn't it?
Exactly. So easy decision for Michelle.
Yeah, it was absolutely fine. But
and that's the last we saw of Sue Tully as well.
Oh, is it the last though? Because we did
so far.
We'll probably talk about it another time. I suppose it doesn't really fit this. But do you think that Susan Tully? Do you think there's anything that can convince her to come back? Just a yes or no answer.
No.
Okay. I think there might be.
I don't know. Tish is going to have a word, isn't she?
She is.
Ending up the year, we had Felix, the new character, the new barber.
Yeah.
Who may have had a dead body in his basement. Nobody knows.
Well, he had dead bodies, but they weren't human. They were butterflies.
That's correct. But I quite liked Felix. Like, he was quite random. Like, he just came in.
I liked his story because it kind of explained, because Claire fell down looking for his dead wife.
Yeah.
And then
Claire, Janine and Sonia, the trio of mischief.
Yeah, again, young characters used well for what they would do, be a bit naughty. And Grant, Phil and Nigel found her at the bottom, and Felix, it looked like Felix was kind of undoing her shirt, but just to make her comfortable.
A lot of people thought he was like weird with children.
Well, she thought he was a paedophile
and stuff,
and he was just being a kind old man.
He's just nice.
But when they attacked him, and he really panicked and started to cry, and then later on, the next episode, you found out the reason was because when he was younger, he was in a cellar, and he's Jewish, and he was in Poland hiding,
and his family were taken in front of him, basically.
Yeah, and went to Auschwitz, and he was the only one that wasn't found, and so it kind of gave him flashbacks, without the use of the flashback, of him.
Young Felix cast for 7 episodes.
It was a wonderful, and again, it was explained.
It was
right, and it was explained, and it was done in a really sympathetic way. And so you kind of learnt about Felix in 5 minutes more than you could have done in a half an hour episode of just acting out flashbacks.
I don't know what you're talking about. We also had Frank return.
Oh, that was fantastic.
I mean, talking about like the way for like someone to return needs to have a purpose. Quote Kate Oakes from 2019. If you're going to return, you need to earn your return. Like Frank coming back, what, 2 episodes? 2 or 3? Maybe not even that.
I think it was 4 because it was the 2 Christmas episodes and then the 2 New Year's episodes.
But like the shockwaves, like just him turning up on Christmas Day had on like so many people was like, okay, that's why you've come back. Like, it upset Pat and Roy in their new life. They just settled. I mean, poor Pat, she was fighting all year to not move away from Frank. And she was like, no, I need to be loyal. I can't move on with Roy. And Kathy was like, no, he's left you. It's your time. Diane said, it's fine. Do it. Ricky eventually said, okay, I see what you mean.
He was a bit
Pat,
stubborn, wasn't he?
move on. She moves on, and then Frank turns up.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, for God's sake.
Literally the moment Roy moved into the house and she kind of accepted it, and then Frank turned
It's
up.
like, oh God, no wonder she's got smoking.
Yeah, but
lighting up 3 at once.
But it was done so well. Again, it was perfect, and he returned, and he just thought he could basically start off, carry on from
Just
where
walk in.
he left off. Basically,
And he wasn't even like he's been going through this horrible thing off screen, like all these like
manic episodes.
Yeah, manic episodes. But he didn't come back, and he was horrible. Like they didn't write him like, oh yeah, everyone cheer for Frank and boot Roy out. He was mean, and he was horrible to Pat. He was horrible to Roy. He said, "It's my house, my wife. I can just come in." And it's like, okay, that's so like true to Frank's character, isn't it?
It's something that you could see Frank becoming. He has that kind of turn, and his defensiveness. That's what Frank is. He's a very defensive guy.
But in private, he was a quivering wreck, and he was like, I have messed up big time here. I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
And it was really sweet having Ricky try to find him and talk to him, and because all Ricky wants is him back, doesn't he? Like he's got no family really, apart from Pat, who isn't technically family.
Yeah, but not blood. And Ricky's got no kind of male role model other than Phil. And Phil has kind of hurt him this year because he got Ricky chucked out.
I know, horrible.
From his bedsit, so Kathy and Phil could move into their new grand house. And so I think Ricky's always looking for that male role model that he can look up to, and it will always be his dad. It'll always be Frank. And when Frank came back, he's immediately lit up to him again.
It's like, my family's back.
Yeah.
But actually it's not. It was a bit like how Frank thought he could just walk back in. I guess Ricky thought Frank could just walk back in and we're back to normal. But not so, because Pat chose Roy.
Yes.
She said right to his face, "I don't love you anymore, Frank. Get out."
I mean...
And we'll see what happens.
I was going to say, we kind of know where that will lead.
But even having like Roy's impotence like story running through it, that gives you like, it's such like interesting dynamics that I think she does love Roy, but Pat, she wants what she wants.
But don't forget that from when Frank and Pat got back together, from the day when Pat kept sneaking off from the darts team match in London, and she went to see Frank many, many years ago, she said even then, from the very beginning, Frank was always her first love and the one that she almost always will go back to when they first met in Butlins, And you could see
stubborn
it.
enough to...
Well, you could see it. You could see it again. The way it was portrayed, the way it was put across, you could see that Pat's heart was torn, that she did love Frank. And she probably would have had him back but she also loves Roy, and as
she'd
you know,
also let him in and moved him in and all sorts.
Yeah, she's already settled now. She's laid the nest with Roy, and so I mean, next year's
difficult situation.
It's a very difficult, and it's something that again, it's the build up. It's a build up where Christmas has basically started a whole big, probably it will be a big long arc with Pat and the butcher relationship between.
I mean, even
Frank
Phil's now worried. Like, the ghost is back. So it's like that's a return that it sets off like all these storylines, and it's like, okay, that was very well done.
Well, you said when the Frank story happened, the first episode when he returned, we watched the next episode, and you said, look how it's ruffled the feathers. Look how it's basically changed the whole dynamics of the square by this one character returning. It's not just affected one family or two families, it's actually affected everyone, because everyone was talking about it. There was a rumbling about it around the whole square, and as you said, that's how a character return should happen. It should shake things up.
Because even David is now thinking all my business, and like it's putting a rift between Ricky and Bianca as well, because she's like not seeing his feelings, and Tiffany's sort of pushing like, oh, just let Ricky get on with it, let's have fun. So there's loads of like things that it's having an effect on, and I'm guessing it will have an effect on Janine as well, where you
started to see that as well,
where she changes.
Yeah, where she changes her face.
One last thing, it happened in the middle of the year, but we've forgotten about it. Our little holiday to Spain.
Oh, of course.
To bring back Sam, because Steve was arranging a nice lads' weekend where they could sleep with as many people as they can. They're going to mark down each one.
Steve's
chart. He's going to sleep with the most. Our Steve.
Oh, but how did that work out for you, Steve?
0. But that was like, what was it? I think it was a whole week, wasn't it? 3 episodes, which were it's just fun, isn't it, when they do stuff like that?
I mean, can we discuss Phil's shorts?
Well, yes.
Phil's shorts were the smallest, tightest shorts I've ever seen on a male. And I've seen shorts. They were insane. And the way he was just walking around with them with such confidence as well. He just loved them. He loved the way he looked.
I mean, I want to know, was that Steve McFadden packs his own suitcase and just like, this is what we're wearing or was it a decision that's Phil's shorts?
I mean, was that with the, I mean, it was denim, so that's, you could say that's a Phil thing. I mean, I'm surprised Phil didn't just cut off some black jeans and had them as his shorts. The fact that he bought them, I mean, I hope there's.
I mean,
a part
he
of
didn't
me.
look sexy, did he? I mean, Grant wore little shorts, but they weren't nowhere near the high rise that Phil's were.
They certainly weren't.
Ricky just looked standard. Ricky, he was like watching TV in the hotel room, didn't he?
Well, Ricky didn't want to go out, did he? He just was like, should we just have a night in and have a beer? Ricky reminded me of pop star Sid Owen. Do you know what I mean? That's what Ricky looked like when he was on holiday. Pop star Sid
and then
Owen.
Bianca had come along because she just found out about David being a dad and she wanted to build a relationship. David wanted to go on the holiday to get away from Bianca because he didn't know what the hell was going on. And they ended up on holiday together. And that's when Steve tried to sleep with Bianca and David had to be like, no, get off her. And it's because you're my daughter. This is gross.
Bianca said it. Bianca came out and said it. Bianca said, that's because he's my dad. And so literally, as soon as they got back to the square, again, like a wildfire, everyone found
Carol
out.
was the last to know.
Of course, because stories. We also saw Sam came back. It was alluded to that there was this woman who worked in the bar that they went to every night, and it kept saying, "Oh yeah, she'll be here soon. She'll be here soon." Because David wanted to, have a chat with someone. She went, "Oh yeah, I know someone who would be perfect for you to talk to. She'll be working here real soon." Well, at the same time, Phil and Grant went to Catalonia. Was it?
Yeah, they had their little Jeep, didn't they? And their little denim shorts, and they were
literally
going.
Could Phil be any gayer? It's like a Jeep and his little shorty shorts. I'm surprised he wasn't chatted up by like the gay community in Spain.
They should recreate that with like Ben. Like now, they should go to Spain with like Ben and Lola and loads of people.
And Callum.
And he should wear his little denim shorts.
I'd like that. He needs to look for someone though. Could they look for? They could be looking for Sam again.
They could look for Lexi. This is like 10 years' time.
Oh,
they're finding Lexi in Spain.
Yeah, but would Ben look as hot in shorty shorts as he would right now? But yeah,
Steve McFadden did.
Well, yeah, but Steve, I don't know how
He's
old
a
Steve
different breed.
He is completely.
But yeah, that was all. That was just a fun episode, wasn't it? And
well,
there was loads going on.
It was to introduce Sam back, wasn't it? How did that go? But it was
people's
really
princess.
Good. She really is. But it was a really fun episode. And also you saw there was a couple of scenes where Grant and Phil bonded as well. So again, it was a nice development for the brothers, the Mitchells once more.
And one like very small storyline which I loved was Pat and Carol trying to decorate their houses in competition.
Yes, who could do it quickest and who could do it fastest.
That was my favourite thing ever, and I loved it.
Well, in the end, they both...
Pat cheated.
It wasn't her fault, though. Roy did it without her knowledge. And when she came home, she was like, oh, okay, fine. I mean, Pat didn't put much effort into it. She kept threatening to start doing the redecoration, but every time she did, everyone was like, oh, do you want to do this? She was like, yeah, right. Off she went.
But right, we need to rank the year now. We've gone through
Grading it.
Yep. In GCSE style, pre-2018 or whenever it changed.
Oh, yeah, when they changed the numbers.
So grades of like A to F.
Okay. With increments of plus and minus, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Do you want to go first or what? No?
Or what? You've been watching Hollyoaks again? Or what?
That's Anne Watt.
And what?
She's been killed and put in a boot, so leave her alone.
Thank goodness for that.
Rachel Adedeji.
Rachel Adedeji. I am going to give it... I thought this was a good year, actually. I did. I'm going to give it... I think I gave the same last year, B+.
Yeah, I think we were like Bs, weren't we?
Yeah. I think I had high hopes in 94 for 95 to be a better year.
95 was really good, but yeah.
I'm actually going to do something here. I'm going to change my 94 grade.
No, can't change past grade.
Well, can I... Okay, so 1995... Yes, B++. B++, because it's not quite an A-. It doesn't quite hit the A-.
I think I'll do an A.
An A? Not an A-?
No, an A. Because there's also A+, A++, and an S.
No, A*.
And an S. I don't know. I want S.
You can't have an
but
S.
I put an A because of my emotional attachment. Like being able to make me feel physically emotional multiple times through the year. I think that grants are good. And the cast as well.
It's a good cast.
Like there's no one I don't want on the show.
No. Well, Steve.
No, I hate Steve.
Oh, the two that we didn't like left. So
yeah, we haven't even talked about them.
Yeah, because they were crap.
Della and Binny,
they
left. But they were horrible and they were just nasty.
They were just nasty.
And they left their horrible apprentice, who was really nice.
And now she works for Geeta.
Yeah, and I like her.
Coastal, yeah.
I love Geeta as well, and Sanjay, his long hair.
Yeah, Sanjay's hot. B++, I want to say B++ because there was moments, not many, but there was like one or two episodes where I felt a bit like,
what's
not
happening
really
here?
Enjoying this. This is kind of just plodding along.
No, I'm going to give it an A. Yours is a B++ then.
B++.
An A.
Yeah.
Very good.
come back for
with a smiley face.
3 merit points.
We will, but we've got 96 to come up soon, so we'll review that once we've watched it all.
I don't want to, though, because it's Arthur.
I know. Goodbye, Arthur. But there you go. So let us know what you would rank the year of 1995 and what your favourite bits were. Did you cry at Debbie's death? Because if you didn't, get out.
Don't forget you can subscribe and click the like button if you enjoyed this video, and ring the bell to get more updates, including our spoiler cast every week about EastEnders. And you can also hear us on your favourite podcast apps. Also, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Just search Walford Weekly Podcast.
Goodbye.
Have a good week. Bye-bye.